Good evening, I'm Jeff Lyons. It is 9 o'clock here on December the 16th, Tuesday night. Welcome to the First Alert Weather Show at 9 o'clock. I'm watching your comments, of course, as always, on the 14 News 14 News Facebook page. So if you have any questions, please put them in. I've had this thing going with my throat, so I went to the doctor today and got a steroid pack to go through, and it's making me feel kind of weird. So if I sound a little weird, that's what it is, but at least my throat's getting a little bit better. So anyway, enough of my problems. Let's get right into yours. And at least for the short term here, we don't have any weather problems. We have cloudy skies overnight. And it's going to get warmer here over the next couple of days. Temperatures will climb into the middle 50s. However, with that, we have storms moving in on Thursday. Now, the Storm Prediction Center did put the tri-state in a marginal risk, a level 1 of 5, or the lowest risk category for a few strong storms. Hail is going to be our main severe component of any because the wind portion is going to be widespread, and everybody will get 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts on Thursday. So it's going to be a windy day regardless of when and how the storms play out, and then a brief cool down on Friday. And I want to mention too, we're not looking at a tornado threat here. It's mainly hail. These will be thunderstorms that are elevated, essentially riding on a layer of slightly warmer air. And so when that happens, the storms are not surface-based. They don't grow up like the ones you're thinking of that happen in the spring and the summer or on very warm days. So while we do have a lot of wind shear and so forth, the lift that we would need to overcome basically the inversion isn't quite where it needs to be. And we don't have a lot of moisture either. Dew points are going to climb, but probably into the low 50s, at least if the models play out. But anyhow, this is where that alert or risk zone is over most of Kentucky. It does include all of our tri-state counties, so just keep that in mind. I'll show you here how I think it'll play out. Now, our graph model that we use here at the station is usually pretty good a couple days out at pinning down the timing and the mode of the storms coming in. So as we get into Thursday morning and afternoon, scattered showers will become more numerous. And then as we get into the afternoon hours, we're expecting a line of storms to develop to our west, or basically a line of rain, some thunder in there, and possibly a few of the stronger cells could produce some hail. Keep in mind too, at this time of the year, we have access to some really cold air off the surface, and as that freeze level comes down, it's easier for hail to form and make it to the ground. So it wouldn't surprise me to see some hail reports out there. Whether we will get to that 1-inch diameter hail criterion for a severe thunderstorm, that's questionable, but some hail certainly doable given what we're expecting. Behind the system, then, it's going to really cool down in a hurry, and that will put us back into the 20s by Friday morning and mid-30s in the afternoon. And then after that, there really aren't any other weather concerns. We will warm up again into the 50s over the weekend. The winds, at least as our modeled data here shows, will start to become more considerable in the afternoon. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see a wind advisory for the tri-state because these winds will likely gust up to around 30 to 40 miles per hour. And we might have some spot winds even stronger than that, just depending on how everything actually comes together. But the wind threat then diminishes quickly after the cold front passes through and the wind shift around to the west. Those initial winds, the stronger ones, will be up out of the south ahead of the cold front, basically filling in the pressure gradient there created by the low pressure. Nothing on the radar right now. We're not expecting anything out there, and generally dry here through the night and through tomorrow. Our temperature now at 42 degrees, and we have lows that got down into the mid-20s this morning, but we made a nice recovery this afternoon into the middle 40s, which is what we were forecasting, so not a surprise there. Always good, though, to get milder air when we can. Our 24-hour temperature change, 14 degrees to the upside, so we continue the warming trend. Now it'll probably kind of plateau tomorrow. We might tack on another 6 or 8 degrees as we get into the 50s. Our lows this morning were a little bit below average, and our highs this afternoon actually slightly warmer than normal. But the bottom line here is that we had a pretty typical December day. On the calendar here, you see that we hit 46 today. That's among the warmest days that we've had this month. 47 was the other warm one, and that happened a week ago. I say warm, I mean warm relative to the other days there where we had temps in the 30s and 20s. Still the same monthly stats here since we haven't had any rain. I think I told you yesterday, but I'll repeat it. This is the 8th wettest year on record as recorded at Evansville, and the record goes back to 1897. Several of our wettest years have actually happened since the year 2000. So you know, if we don't get any more rain this month, we will be in 8th place overall. And to get to 7th place, we need a big amount of rain there, about 4 inches, to push us into those really, really wet years. The commute tomorrow, no problems. It'll be partly sunny during the afternoon, and then the clouds return, and this time they will precede the cold front that'll be dropping in here on Thursday. So you see that south wind beginning to pick up, and the showers developing, keeping that warm, moist air coming up off the Gulf, and that's what the cold front will work off of to produce some showers and thunderstorms. After that, then we wait until late Sunday or early Monday to see our next chance for rain. 35 for the high on Friday. That's going to be a big letdown there from 56 the day before. But over the weekend, we get back into the upper 40s and lower 50s. And not right now, it's looking like Christmas week will be somewhat warmer than normal, too. The rain coming through tomorrow, or for Thursday, will exit pretty quickly, and then we get into the weekend with that next shot of maybe some snow showers or rain coming Sunday night and early Monday, and then you see some rain there working in for Tuesday, and actually goes into Wednesday and Thursday too on the longer range GFS. But we know how flaky these models can be at the longer ranges. 35 degrees tonight with cloudy skies. Tomorrow we get some sun out there, 52 for the high, and over the next 7 days the temperatures will settle above normal. We will likely finish out December much above average, where we kind of started it here much below average. So in the final analysis, it'll probably all balance out and will look like a normal month, 100 years from now when they look back. On the temperature outlook, we remain much above normal there through the end of the year and the end of the month, of course, and our precip drier than normal. Oh, look at that. Our Pepe, I thought, well, I've turned the switcher the wrong way. There's me, but that is me, and this is Snickers, the wannabe weather cat sent to us by Amy Hilliard. That's a good image on there. At least, Snickers is paying attention to the weather, which is all we ask. Just keep an eye on things, especially when we have an alert day. All right, let me take a look here at your questions and or comments. And again, I apologize if I'm a little loopy this evening. Okay. Hail is the main threat, not damaging winds. Yes. Now, there are going to be widespread winds around the area of, between 30 and 40. And so the kind of the side hazard of that is stuff blowing around like garbage cans, Christmas decorations, things like that. So you want to make sure you have all that stuff battened down or secured before we get out there. Jeff Miller, what about this flash freeze I keep hearing about? Well, and I talked a little bit about that on the early newscast today. I didn't really push it too hard because I think after the rain moves through, we're not going to make that drop rapidly enough that the wind should dry everything off. Now, I'm saying should and could. Never good when you're forecasting weather, but that's the best we can do right now. Is a flash freeze possible? Well, of course, when we get down into the mid-20s. The big question mark is how quickly will we make that transition. If it occurs over 4, 5, 6 hours, I don't think we're going to see a problem. There could still be a slick spot or two on roads, but as far as a mass, flash freeze, I don't think so at this point. Oh, Laura Gray's watching from Dawson Springs. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Patty Mueller, sorry to hear I'm under the weather. I'm not really under the weather. It's kind of odd. Not that this is a medical show, but about 3 weeks ago, I guess it was Well, it was a Saturday before Thanksgiving, so however long that's been, about 3.5 weeks. We were in the parade in Owensboro, and I had lost my voice. I got kind of laryngitis, had a cold. It didn't feel great, but you trudge on, right? So we went to Owensboro, had a great time, but I lost my voice. So I didn't say anything on Sunday. By Monday, I had it back, kind of crackly, but still had, just stuffy head, the usual stuff you have when you have a cold. No fever or anything. So anyway, then we had Thanksgiving, but it just never went away, the cough and kind of a sore throat. So anyway, today, when I went, I don't have anything, but I have actually a little fluid behind my ear. So they said, okay, we'll give you these steroids, you'll be feeling great. Well, yes, that's true, and it did take the pain away, but like I said here at 9 o'clock at night, I'm a little loopy. So I'll be better tomorrow. Don't you panic about that, okay? All right. I have a science corner for you here. And this actually is applicable because we've been talking a lot about models, long-range forecasting. And just to refresh your memory, maybe you don't know or hadn't thought about it, but models are comprised of weather data that's gathered right now. That's called the initialization. It's the first step in creating a weather model to predict the future. And so we use weather instruments. This is actually an ASOS site. If you go to my Out and About stories, you can see me talking with Jeff Maurice, the guy who maintains the ASOS at Evansville. This is not Evansville's, but it's one like it. They're all identical. Anyway, so we get that information from about 5,000 sites around the country. There are weather buoys off the coast, the Atlantic coast, the Gulf, and the Pacific. And of course, we use satellite imagery, weather balloons, and other information, pilot reports, and so on from planes. All of that information is fed into the model. And it says, okay, here's what it looks like right now at all these locations around the country. Now let's apply our equations, and there are many, to figure out cloud cover, rain, snow, precip type, wind direction, all the parameters that we need to know for weather forecasting. And in the old days, this took quite a lot of time. The NCEP, or National Climate and Environmental, whatever they are, I don't know what the P stands for. I should know that. But anyhow, that's where the computers were located, big Cray supercomputers, and they would start running the model. In this case, we'll say the GFS. Back in the day, it was the LFM, and there were many others. But as this happened, it took a long time for the model to run, on the order of hours for it to run. Kind of an interesting thing, when weather computing, or a computational model, was first conceived back in the 20s or 30s, they had to do it mechanically and by hand, and they produced a model output, but it took like 3 weeks to do it. So it wasn't well, it was worthless, but they could look back and they learned from that, the researchers did. But anyway, back to the present. So now we have, of course, faster computers which can compute and crunch even more numbers, and that's why we have things like the high-resolution rapid refresh model, which runs hourly and gives us a 1-hour time step for what's coming up. We still have the GFS, we have the NAM 4K. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. And anyway, after all this goes on, the output is a forecast, which is generally plotted on maps, but we can also get model output statistics, or MOS numbers, which are numbers for each hour for dew point temperature and so forth. And each model has a different time step resolution. So the more steps you have, say you have half hourly or hourly, more computation power, and those models tend to have a shorter horizon on them. Typically, well, like the H high resolution rapid refresh only goes out, most of the runs, it's like 18 hours or so. There's one that goes a little bit longer than that runs 4 times a day. And the longer range ones, like say the GFS, which goes all the way out 10 days, but the time step is every 3 hours, and the grid spacing, which we'll get to in a minute, is a little wider. Well, anyhow, all these factors play in, but that is the output. And then after the weather occurs, the information, what actually happened, is fed back in. That's called verification. And verification is often a factor in the model to help it self-correct. So if it sees, okay, the model here forecasts 70, but we hit 65, we got a warm bias. Or sometimes they do a thing called parameterization, like if there's snowpack, or you've got a mountain range somewhere, features on the map or on the Earth that would impact the weather in a local way can sometimes be parameterized. And I know I'm getting way in the weeds here, but you got to realize this is a complicated subject, and you have rooms full of physicists and scientists, the brightest minds in science, that are conceiving and improving and monitoring the models so that we have decent weather output. That's what your tax dollars pay for through NOAA and the National Weather Service. And I mentioned earlier, but I'll show it again here, the models don't look at states or counties. They basically assign a grid over a given area. We call that area the domain. So wherever the model is forecasting for, we superimpose, or the model superimposes a grid. And then it forecasts conditions at each grid point over whatever the time frame is for the model. So if we get an hourly, then it's looking, each hour, okay, it's going to be 62 here at 9, and then 64 at 11, and so on and so on. For the GFS model, those grid spaces might be bigger, to the tune of 25 kilometers. For something like the HRRR, it could be very, very short, like a kilometer or two. So you're talking a very big difference in resolution. Think of pixels. When you take an old digital picture, it looked kind of pixelated because the resolution was low. Now you have HD TV, the pictures look really good. And this is because we have more information per data point. Anyway, the calculations are made for each point on the grid, and the time step, as I explained. And I also always like to point out that in model forecasting, it all depends on what goes in the beginning. If you don't put good information in at the initialization, you're going to have lousy information coming out the other end, garbage in, garbage out. Now, the data that goes in is quality checked as best it can be, but still you're going to have times when you get a screwy number in there, and it will mess things up. In the short term, those small errors don't really matter a lot. They matter, but not too much. And I liken that to, I'm using a football field here. I should have kicking a field goal, right? Kicking a 5-yard field goal a lot easier than a 100-yard one, which I think is impossible. But anyway, we'll use a bowling ball analogy. So when you release a bowling ball, you introduce a certain amount of error, right? You're never going to throw it perfectly straight every single time. And so those small errors don't make much difference. If you're trying to knock a pin down 10 yards away, you'll probably be able to do it. However, if you have to wing back and get the ball to roll, 300 feet or 100 yards, the likelihood that you'll hit the pin decreases significantly after about day 4 or 5, because those small errors have then multiplied and caused deviations in where the model was going. So anyway, that's why when you see models, especially long-range stuff, 300 hours out, posted on social media, go by, just scroll by. That's not, it's interesting to look at and to think about, but it's not necessarily what's actually going to happen. And we preach this a lot. Of course, I'm not going to bore you with that, but just be mindful that the process that the models uses favors that shorter time horizon, and it gets more difficult the farther out we go. It's gotten a lot better since models were first developed, and continues to improve, but still the general rule of thumb is that 2 to 3 day window is going to be more skillful with most models most of the time. All right, let me see here. Boy, that was a long sermon. Everybody's probably asleep. Sometimes it clears out the room. Can't get alerts on my phone on Facebook, but I found it, Lenny Howard. Yeah, so the way we, I don't know that Facebook does that anymore. It used to be anytime I went live, you would get a notification if you follow me. What we do here at the station is I send a notification out on the 14 First Alert app. It's just a text notification that says 14 First Alert Weather Show at 9, or it starts at 9 o'clock or 2:30 if it's the afternoon. And I set those up to come out about within the 5-minute period before we begin. So hopefully I've got my act together and we're ready to go at 9 o'clock or 2:30. and you'll see it. So that's how we alert you. Jeanette feels like we've had a lot of gusty winds. It's been kind of windy here this year, hasn't it? I'm just hoping the winds will get the last of those leaves out of those valleys in my house so I don't have to get an extension ladder out and a rake and a bike helmet and try to get them. Anyway, that's all I have for you right now. I will see you over on 14 News at 10. I appreciate you watching and putting up with me here. And we'll have the updated forecast for you on 14 News in about 45 minutes. So stay safe and thanks for watching.